Good evening, Bruchim Aboim. Welcome to tonight's talk and gathering. Rav Isaac Gershon Mintz was nifter on Beis Mar Cheshvan. His name was Rav Isaac Gershon, the Rav Avram Zev, in Tovshin Nun Gimel. And since that time, his family has for many of the years organized a chinuch event, because that's what Rabbi Mintz was all about. It was a life of chinuch. I remember that on the day that I accepted the position of being Menahel of a Holy Torah, I got a ride with him to the Catskills. It was, I think, on a Friday morning or Thursday afternoon. And he shared with me haros that he had from the Rebbe on chinuch. Some of them I still remember today. He was zeicha to a family of children. Most of them are not here because they're away on shlichus. All of his children are shluchim in various cities around the United States, doing the Rebbe's work of spreading Yiddishkeit. 2 days ago or 1 day ago was Chof Cheshvan, the birthday of the Rebbe Rashab, who founded the yeshiva Temchet Mimim in the year 1897, Tofresh Nun Zayin. Just as an interesting tidbit, if you give a look at the cornerstone of this building, right before the Beis Medrash, the Zal begins, you'll see on the cornerstone, on the Even HaPina, is inscribed the year that they laid that cornerstone. It says Tofresh Pei 1920. Because we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Magdim Refuah Lamaka. He gives us the medication before the disease. And we know from Queen Esther was taken to be the queen of 127 countries before Haman's Gezerah. Likewise, we know that one of the many examples in Jewish history is that Columbus sailed for America on Tisha B'Av 1492, the day of the expulsion of the Yidden from Spain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already prepared America for the future of Yiddishkeit. Likewise, 1920 was the year of the Histalkus of the Rebbe Nishmas Eidin of the Rebbe Rashab, Tofresh Pei. We could say that Lubavitch went under in Russia in that year. Obviously, before that, it was also difficult, and there was still some underground yeshivas after, but we could really effectively say that Tofresh Pei was the year that the Temchet Mimim ceased to exist in Russia, and the Eibishter prepared a future home for Temchet Mimim. I don't mean Dafka Olei Torah, it's Lubavitch Yeshiva, and it's Darkei Menachem, and everybody, and the girls as well. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu was then already preparing the future home for Temchet Mimim. The name Temchet Mimim was given by the Rebbe Rashab, I think during Hakofes, when we say that tefillah, Temchet Mimim Hashiano. At that time, he said, "Oh, that's the name I want to give to this yeshiva, because the Talmidim will be the Tmimim." Temchet Mimim were the donors. This is not an appeal. Temchet Mimim were the people who funded the yeshiva, who made it possible. But I'd like to suggest that Temchet Mimim has another meaning. It's the people who help the children grow up to be Tmimim. And that is you, the parents. You are the ones who are Taimech, who support, who encourage and teach your children to grow up to be Tmimim. And so tonight's gathering is to see how actually can we do that. Sometimes parents wait until the child is in his teens or 20s, and sometimes it's too late. We have to start when they're young, in elementary schools and in siftas. We have to already be taimech now, do what needs to be done today so that they grow up to be Tmimim. And what is that? And we asked Rav Ganz, who is mashpia to many, many Yidden in Muncie and other cities. He's mashgiach and a senior Maggid Shir in Morristown. And he's consulted very often by parents to discuss various topics of chinuch, and his sermons are repeated by many rabbanim. He's very warm, and he's going to tell us how we can be teimich the tmimim. How can we create a warm chassidische shtub? How can we create a shtub of children that'll grow up to be Yiras Shomayim and Chassidim? How are we going to do that? So it's my honor to present to you Rabbi Dovid Gancz.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Rabbi Lustig. Talking about Teimech Tzimimim. I had, Baruch Hashem, a very tired upbringing, but I wasn't zeicher to learn in Teimech Tzimimim. My name is Ganz, I told him. But today, Baruch Hashem, I'm zeicher to teach Bacharim Tzimimim. As he laid out beforehand that I'm a big mechanech and a consultant, and people consult me, I want to let you know I have no profession. I never took any classes in that. And b'seich ami yonechi yesheves, I'm together, a father, k'nai nahara of kinderlich and shluchim and so on, like all the rest of the people who are sitting in this room. And the challenges are out there to everybody. And together, we try to be mechazik each other, ishes, rayehu, yazeru, and we'll do it together of my experiences with my children, with my talmidim, and to see what are the things that really make children tick, what makes children change, what makes children really thrive. B'hashgacha hal yena, we're standing today, one day after Chav Cheshvan, as mentioned before, and the famous word of the Rebbe Rashab, that a person has to think a half an hour a day of the chinuch of his children, which is a monumental call, a very tall call. And we don't always have the schus to do that, but certainly tonight is a night when we all gathered for that purpose, to give a half an hour and perhaps 2 half hours to ponder, reflect, and give chizik to each other, and to see how we could get to that goal of the chinuch of our children and to be teimech our tzimimim. It is also b'hashgacha elyena, the parsha right after what we read last week. The Rebbeinu Shloim says, Ki yadaitiv, I love Avraham Avinu. I like him. Why? L'man asher yitzava es bonav es beisei achrav, because he is going to command and connect his children after him. V'shamru derech Hashem, and they will protect and guard over the derech Hashem. Hayom yom ches tamus. The Alter Rebbe says, Avraham Avinu had accomplishments that nobody in the world could compare. Echad hoya Avraham. We know what it means today to stand against the whole media. We know what it means to fight an uphill battle to go against the tide. We're talking one man against the entire world. And it wasn't like the times of the Beis Hamikdash that you saw Gilush Chinuch in every corner. It's a start of sponim, and to come and to inculcate in people's mind that yes, Shmanik Lebirazu, there's a Beira Olam, and he leads in every single iota of the world, which seems to go so against science and the prevalence of what we see in our daily lives. And yet one man was fighting the Milchemes Hashem for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Says the Rebbe, and the Torah doesn't say that's why Hashem loved him, but because this is going to be perpetuated. It's going to continue. That's the key. Because we're going to take it a step further. Because the children are Revim Ba'adeinu, they are the ones who guarantee that it continues. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu connects to Yedaitiv, is also Chabrus, to Avraham Avinu, to Am Yisrael, because we're a nation that we raise children. The million-dollar question is, so how do we do it? They tell a story. A father taught a child never to engage in any gambling, in any betting, never to drink, be ethical, moral. The child looked up to the father and says, "Father, what do you mean we can't drink? How about Kiddush?" Father said, "Kiddush, Kiddush, it's a sesa d'oraisa. Alayayin, okay." He says, "And how about Havdalah?" "Havdalah with the Rabbanan, a mitzvah, of course. A mitzvah, chiyuv. You have to do it." He says, "Tati, how about the minig Yisrael that you say l'chaim between the fish and the flesh?" He says, "Minig Yisrael teirehi." Of course, minig Yisrael, what's the shayla? So he says, "Tati, if Kiddush is a d'oraisa, and Havdalah is a d'Rabbanan, and l'chaim between the fish and the flesh is a minig Yisrael, so when will I know that I actually took too much?" His father thinks a moment. He says, "You see, look at that corner. See those two people standing in the corner? When they will appear in your eyes like 4, you would know you took too much." And this little child starts crying. He says, "Tati, Tati, I only see one person there." It's not a chidush that dugma chaya is the first step in chinuch. There's not a question about that. I once heard the Rebbe in a sikha, and the Rebbe says in the sikha, "Why are you not davening? What do you expect your children are going to look like?" And the Rebbe said, takes it even a step lower than we're going to be talking. The Rebbe says, "Fake it. Deg de chibber ibn talis. Let him think you're davening." To that extent, of course, this is a last resort, but the Rebbe demands at least that. At least that. That's not what dugma chaya is. But al kaponim, we see how far the Rebbe goes. At least be there. But al kaponim, dugma chaya could also be doing the right things. And as the old adage goes, children do what parents do. And I would like to dispel this myth tonight. Children do not necessarily do what parents do. It's a very big statement. But I believe children do what parents love to do. And I'll try to explain for the next 45 minutes or so what I mean by that. I heard from Rabbi Hirson, the Manal in Morristown where I am. He said there's a shliach, I don't know if he meant himself, but there was a shliach who wrote to the Rebbe that he's about to hire the next generation of shluchim. He opened a school and he needs to hire malamdim and teachers. He wants to know the criteria. On which basis do I know a malamed is fit to be a malamed? On which basis do I know that a teacher is fit to be that proper teacher? Do I give him some testing? Do I send him schooling? How do I know that? And he told me it's probably a printed letter. Many of you probably know it. The Rebbe told him, you'll find that teacher, that when 5 o'clock comes and the bell rings, he stays on for another half hour because he has to prepare for tomorrow. He needs to meet the parents who are going to pick up the children at the bus and know if this child needs something extra. Is this child from a broken family? Does this child have any other issues in the family that he needs some more caring, some more love, and so on? Says the Rebbe, that's the malamed that you're going to hire. The malamed was an expert, was a top-notch expert, really knows how to do this job, knows how to teach, is highly disciplined and has a lot of chayas as well. However, he's a 9 to 5 worker. It's 5 o'clock. The bell rang. Call me tomorrow. That's a malamed that is an employee. If it's an employee, it means the business is not my business. I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid. In Williamsburg, or better say in Williamsburg where I grew up, there was a great Rav. We lived here in Tafshin at the time when the Friedrich Rebbe came here. You all know him from the Hashgacha and Kedem. It's the Tzelem Rav. He lived over here. There's very few from people yet. At least the Haredi Shomayim from Europe didn't start coming yet. He started with kosher milk. He was a very beginner. He took some bachar from Dovid Gancz, made some Chassidish kreis around him a little bit. So they tell a story. A mother came to him once, and she consulted his help. She said, "Rabbi, I desperately need help." So he asked her, "How can I help you?" She says, "I have a son, Nebuch, who had off his mind, is Nebuch, he's suffering mentally, and I need guidance, I need help." It was pre-times of therapists and other things. He says, "Rabbi, I desperately need help." He says, "Can you tell me some of the symptoms that you see by your son?" She says, "Of course, I'll tell you." She says, he has this big volume, it's leather bound, and a half a day he stands over them and he shakes, and he sings the song and he shakes. So the rabbi pointed to his shas. "Maybe you mean those books?" She says, "Identical. How did you pick those out?" He says, "I want to hear some more of the symptoms." She says, "Rabbi, what should I tell you? What should I tell you?" He has these strings are hanging out from him all over where he goes, and they're shaking in the wind. So he opens his big package, and he had a big talis cotton. She says, "Rabbi, so identical." And so she goes on with everything he does. And finally, she realizes, an unbelievable therapist, he has everything in his home, he knows. So finally, the Tzelem Rav couldn't hold it back anymore. She says, "My tired Freud, I can't help you. I'm so sorry." He says, "I suffer of the same illness." So this woman starts crying. She says, "Rabbi, you don't understand me. You don't know what's going on." She says, "You're a rabbi, you're getting paid to do this. My son is serious about it." There's a 9-to-5 worker. There are people who do it because it's the right thing to do. My parents did it. After all, when I eat, I'm schwer zu sein, I eat. But I'll do it to the last day of my life because I'm Jewish. And then there is a Yid who does it because kiheim chayenu ve'erech yamein. If we do things because I have to do it, it's not necessarily my child has to do it. If I do things because I love to do it, it's who I am. I'm not hired to do it. I'm not a rabbi who's getting paid. I'm serious about it. This is my life. If this is my life, this is my children's life. I saw a letter of the Rebbe. It's not a printed letter. It might be that many of the same kind available, but this is a letter. I know that I lost it, so I never gave it into printing. It wasn't my letter. It was one of the Balas Tshuva in Muncie who showed me her personal letter, and later on it got lost someplace. She writes to the Rebbe, "I became through a kiruv meisit from modern Orthodox, and basically I'm modern Orthodox, and I need a bracha, something," she wrote. The Rebbe gave her a bracha. The Rebbe writes, "If you give me your name, your mother's name, askir alatzir." And then at the bottom there's a footnote. The Rebbe writes, "What you're telling me that you're modern Orthodox." So the Rebbe says, "I'm sorry to tell you that in my lexicon, in my grammar it doesn't exist such a concept, because this is a contradiction in terms. Because Orthodox means rigid, unbudging, going back to medieval times, going back to Avraham Avinu, to Matan Torah. Modern means forging ahead, changing with times, following peer pressure, following society, and so on, and it changes day after day. It means befedish teilchu b'chukos hagoy, whatever the in things are, what the style is, and so on. And to me, says the Rebbe, these two things don't go together. At Kan. This was a letter that I saw, personal, with the Rebbe's signature. And there's a footnote that these two things don't go hand in hand. And I spoke about this years ago. This goes back 30 years. And I was standing with my children, and I spoke in shul about it. And I asked the question, what does the Rebbe mean? Where do you have a person today who isn't modern? Do you know families that are going with a horse and buggy? Do you still know a family, a mother who stands at the riverbank and rubbing in shirts? Who doesn't have an ironing board and an iron today? And who doesn't have a dryer? Where do you see people hanging clothes on a clothesline? What is the Rebbe telling us? That modern and Orthodox don't go together. Every Orthodox and Hasidic Jew you know today is absolutely modern. Do you know anybody today who has a rotary phone? When I said it, my children started pulling me by the record. Tati, what is a rotary phone? We're forging ahead. The Rebbe says, no. Oh, we're going backwards. Are we fooling ourselves? It's obvious it's not what the Rebbe meant. The Rebbe came to 770 in a car, not with a horse. The question is as follows. You know what, I'll tell you what I said in that shul about the story. Imagine a Rav walks into a shul and says a drasha, gewaldige drasha, babot chavaki, v'amidan alachas, v'tzadik b'minosa. He says a pasuk, Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. This is Yiddishkeit. Achdus Hashem. And then he says it a second time and a third time. At the fifth time, people started to snore. At the sixth time, you hear the door squeaking and some people are already leaving. But after all, it's an unbelievable pasuk. It's Achdus Habeida. It's all about Yiddish. It's all what Yiddishkeit is all about. And you say it once, and you say it twice, and you say it third time. And Rabbi, you're repeating yourself. You're becoming redundant. A vifle of the Shir. And then you walk in Manhattan, one of the huge music halls. About 150,000 people are gathered. And one of the great singers walks in. His name is NBD. And he starts saying as follows. Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. He says again. Then he says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu. And he says it 55 times. And finally he bows down. Thank you so much. He gets a standing ovation. And people start screaming, we want more. Excuse me? The rabbi said it 5 times. It was too much. And he could say it 55 times. And it's not enough. The answer is a simple thing. We all have a neshama shenasata b'tohirahi. We have in our equation ahava musateres. We have Yerushalayim aviseinu, ahava yira, achelik lekama mal mamash, getlichkeit. And then we have at the other part of the equation is a nefesh habahamis. A behemoth wants what a behemoth wants. Yudei tzadik nefesh behemti, we know very well what our behemoth wants. So we have an equation put together both. There's no other creature in the world like this. Nothing. A malach is either a malach, and dirt is either dirt. But taking from the mud, from the lowest common denominator, and vayipach ve'apav nishmas chayim, that combination. Nothing in the world has that. We are that equation. And the question is, which part of the equation do we say? And which part of the equation do we sing? When we sing it, we can't have enough. We need more and more, and our children want more. When we say it, 9 to 5, it's over. What's next? And the koch that we have in things. Children will do what we love to do. And let's try to take it practically. There are many people. We're talking to parents who care for their children and giving up a night, and people care and they spend thousands of dollars literally for chinuch. They do spend thousands of hours in consulting and asking, trying to do the very best for chinuch. Chinuch is our life. No question about it. Everything is about our future. No question about it. The question but comes when it comes an issue at hand of any hanhage teva. Am I going to dress a little more modern, or am I going to dress a little more less modern? Am I going to make sure that I have a shiur at least 3-4 times a week? I know it's very hard. My wife has 5-6 children. I need to help, so I'll make sure I help before, I'll help after, I'll hire help. But I need to have that shiur. Or is it And when a child comes home with a note from school that her dress is a little too short, the neckline is too low or something, and you can see the mother, okay, now I'm for in school. Okay, but I'm a good parent. I follow the rules. Mama, tomorrow we're buying a new dress. Or is it that this is, wow, I didn't realize that. Thank you so much. We'll make sure that this is what we live for. Shulchan Aruch, Teres Hashem, is this our life? Or I'm a 9 to 5, if that's what they want, I'll give in. I'm not fighting with them. Is that who we are? Is that what we're doing? Or is that who we are? I heard from a Rav in Monsey. A Chassidus Rav in Monsey. And he told me, he made an observation. It's his observation. It's not a sikha, it's not a maimer, but it's his observation and his thinking. He says, I looked around and I saw that many Rabbanim, my type, he says, well, can I know a lot of tired kids, but not each and every one. He says, some of the kids, I love dafke when they're tired kids, but love dafke, they became a kailul yingaman, love dafke became another Rav, another Dayan, another Yeshiva. He says, then I look around in my block, I have 2 electricians and 1 plumber. He says, they're kids, unbelievable. Each and every one is a Rav and a Dayan. He says, how do they do that? He says, ich bin der Rav, und ich lerne, und ich daven, und ich darshan. There's the plumber. And his kid is the future man of Yisrael. So he says, my observation is as follows. He gave me a few observations. He says, my observation, he says, and I believe that's the truth. He says, I believe, he says, in every shul, there's a Mr. Greenberg and Mr. Goldfarb. He says, whenever nobody sponsored Chassidus, pick up a phone, Mr. Goldfarb, okay. When the Conrad bill isn't paid, okay, Mr. Goldfarb. Any little thing, seats are not sold for Rosh Hashanah, each and every one, he'll pay the difference, the rest, whatever is supposed to come in. He says, my children, he says, see one thing, ich bin a Rav, but all my life, I look forward to Mr. Goldfarb. So my kids think, so why do I have to be the Rav? Ich kann doch sein Mr. Goldfarb allein. He says, Mr. Goldfarb had a shaila. He says, some ice cream in his freezer, the freezer, there was a blackout and they lost the ice, it became unfrozen, and there was some ice cream dripped on a chicken. So he put on his gartel, took all his 3 kids, and went to the Rav. Kinderlich, me geht fragen, scheide dem Rav. Der gartel, mit ein Hadres, covered. He walks into the Rav passed it. He says, Mr. Goldfarb's kids, look at this. Why? Look how my father looks at this Rav. He says, why do I have to be Mr. Goldfarb? Ich kann doch sein der Rav allein. It's not what we do. It's what we are. It's what we're looking forward to do. That's what we are. That's what we do with joy, with happiness, with simcha. As the famous word of the Ramban and the Baal Shem Tov Kachs and then b'makom she'ritzoyne shel adam sham hu nimtza. It's what you want. Where are we? Do we have a koch? Do we have a life that kochs in anagas of Torah, Chassidish anagas, Chassidish adrachas, iskashrus? All the inyanim is not just done; it melept in them. The stub wirbelt, the stub lebt in them. That's something that's a fiber that becomes every child in the house is part of that. The Baal Shem Tov says, the place where your will is, where your ratzon is, that's where you are. I remember I once asked a question. Chazal tell us, thoughts of a sin are worse than a sin. Now everybody knows that in halacha it works the other way around. Nobody can be punished for his thoughts. You can't bring a person to a beis din that he thought to kill somebody. It's not going to do anything. It's not conspiracy. He didn't even talk to another person about it. It's his thoughts. And how could Chazal say with such a clear-cut halacha statement? I explained it once at the Fabrengen, the Bacher in the Yeshiva. So imagine A Yid was slept, as Rabbi Lustig just mentioned before, after Tov Reish Pei in Russia, before Glasnost. And difficult times. Not too many frum people left, everything is on the ground. Yes, can I know Abbas Yechida, Tayre Yiddish Tachter, who is still frum. He needs to find a shidduch. He has two options. That's the only thing left in his town that he knows. Two bacharim. One bachar is a bachar Bal Mesidus Nefesh Mamash. Underground yeshiva, whole day, almost never eats, never sleeps, dodges the school, the Goyish school, the whole system, the communist system, and he's Pashad Mesidus Nefesh, it's a learned state. One night, after Tikkun Chatzais, he walked home, it's 12 o'clock at night. The guards are supposed to change in the bank, the front of the bank, and he realizes the first guard left before the other guard came. He didn't have food for the last 7 days. He walked in there, took a quarter, literally lahachyesis nafshe, to regain his composure, to regain his life, to get his brains back. Unfortunately, there was a camera up there, and he was caught, and was prosecuted. He was given 6 months jail. That's one bacher. Profile number one. Profile number two is another bacher, from a bacher, Shem Shabbos, davens 3 times a day. But all he does the whole day, he writes schematics for himself, how to rob a bank. And he knows every bank when the guards change, and he knows exactly how to disengage this camera, how to disengage that gadget, and also this one. But anytime he tried to do it, he realized, to his dismay, boy, there was another one there that he can't disengage. So he never stole a penny. Didn't do the crime, doesn't do the time. He was never prosecuted. The question is now, who do you take for a son-in-law? Profile A or profile B? It's a no-brainer. You would take the first one. The first one is not a ganav. He stole. He happened to steal. He stole. The second one never stole a penny in his life. As durchen durch a ganav. That's his dreams, that's his vacation, that's his thinking, that's his adding, that's his sipik hanefesh. That's him. That's him. It's true that in Tanya, and perhaps as opposed to other Chassidish Sfarim, the Alter Rebbe is very strong for Maisa. In Perik Dala, the Alter Rebbe tells us, Machshava Dibber Maisa is greater than a Hava V'yira. In Perik Mem, the Alter Rebbe is an Arichas Godul of explaining Maisa B'poel, Da Maisa Hu Ha'ikir. The wings carry you up, but that's the Maisa. It's all true. L'gab Nachas Ruach L'beire. Did you do the mitzvah? Didn't you do the mitzvah? Are you mechuyev to eat matzah again if you had only machshava? Of course you have to. If you didn't do it. But the question is, who are we? The mitzvah is another thing. The question is, wer bin ich? If I only do it because I have to, and it's done in a haphazard way, and it's done in an indifferent way, callously, and it's not me. I'd rather be someplace else now. Then it's not me. If it's not me, it doesn't go through. Chassidus explains, the Rebbe explains, why is it that Noach had a tzaddik? He was a tzaddik, a pasuk in Chumash. He had a son, a tzaddik, Shem. He had a son, a Rosh Gomer, was Cham. And so too, Meshuselach was a tzaddik, many of his children weren't, and so on. It went from Adam Rishon and on. Hevel is a tzaddik, Kayin isn't. After Avram Avinu, Be'ikir, after Yaakov Avinu, everybody who's born to Jewish mother is Jewish. And has a chelik elekam mal mamish, has the potential to be a tzaddik gomer. Certainly a Beinoni. Every Yid, no matter what. And Chassidus, the Rebbe explains. And that's why Hashem told Avram Avinu, Lech lecha, Kan before Lech Lecha, you can't have children. After Lech Lecha, yes. Why? The Rebbe explains. There is daimon, inanimate, Tzemeach, the vegetation, Chai, the animal kingdom, and Medaber, mankind. Each species is so separate and so distinct, they can't mix with each other. Absolutely. And then when Avraham Avinu was Mekayim Lech Lecha, he became connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Then, as the Kuzri says, he is not part of Adam anymore. He is part of Chelik Elokah Mimal Mamash. There's a fifth species. It's called Yisrael. Daimon, Tzeneach, Chai, Medaber, and then comes Yisrael, which is not even part of the other four, because this is Chelik HaBeira and this is Chelik HaNivra. Let's take it a step further, says the Rebbe. Can you imagine ever an elephant giving birth to a dog? Maybe on the front page of tabloids you could find that, but in reality I'm not sure. Do you ever see a human being giving birth to an animal? You could have a father who is extremely smart and the child not necessarily so. You could have the opposite, the father who isn't so smart and the child is brilliant. Not every trait of what we have goes over. Some take after the father, after the mother, a mixture, or pick up on their own. But if you're human, your child is human. If you're chelik elokah mimal mamash from Avraham Avinu and on, certainly after Yaakov Avinu, every child born to Yiddish mama is a Yid. It's their choice whether to live up to it. But it's not a question. Born different. As before that, Adam Rishon was an Adam, a man. You could have good children, you could have bad children, you could have all kinds. When we do things just because we have to, a 9-to-5 job, that's not who we are. Children do not have to do the same. You like that, I like something else. Or not you like. You do that, I do something else. Not only that, you are trying to find shortcuts. If I'm trying to find shortcuts, but I couldn't because my Rav was too frim. It was a frimak, he was still a generation before, so I couldn't do it. My son is more clever. He'll find a Rav, we'll give him that heter that I was looking all my life. I trained him for that. And he finally got it. You know, but if I'm living that, if this is who I am, he is there, that's who I am. If I am chelik elokah mimal, my children are that. My children are who I am. If I'd give you a pashut mashal today, it's anybody is for vaccination or anybody is against vaccination. I'm not getting into those politics, but you know very well. It's not about, we do give vaccines. No, we don't. You wouldn't dare walking into a house or against vaccination talk about it. There you do that. God, it's so taboo, you know. It's their life. It's a mission. It's a whole thing that you build on it. It's not simple. It's not just, we do it, we don't do it. The koch is there because they live with it. It's a mission in life. It's a whole thing. So of course, the nakuda is that we have to do things and everything. And therefore people get a kaf. And I want to try to explain something. Even though Chassidus and the Rebbe kochs very much, that we just learned last week's parsha. Yitzchak tells Avraham Avinu, how can you do that? By the Akedah. Vayemer Yitzchak el Avraham Aviv, a word from the Mezritch Magid. Vayemer Yitzchak el Avraham Aviv. He says to Avraham Aviv, Avi, Vayemer Avi, you're my father, you're chesed. Midas ha-chesed, how can you do that? Vayemer Avraham answers, Hineni b'ni. No, now I'm Yitzchak. Hashem asks me to do that. Now I'm kava yira, I'm kava gvura. In other words, in the Rebbe kochs in that we don't have a kav. We don't have whatever Hashem wants. Mesiras nefesh. And some people get it that if that's the case, I have no kav. I'll preface it with a question. We all know that yeshivas today make many miftzayim. Miftzah Teira, Bacharim finish a Masechta, Bacharim finish many chalakim, Lukutasichas, Maimorim, and so on, and we give heavy prasim, thousands of dollars for svarim, and so on and so forth. And the Rebbe would encourage that, and the Rebbe would quote always the Rashba, Mefarsim, and Oisa Mitzvah. Anybody does a mitzvah, you have to praise him, lift him up, let others see what he's doing. And And the question is, isn't Chassidus all against that? How about pride? Arrogance? Self-pride? Chassidus is all about anivas, bittul, and so on. How do we do that to children? We train them. You got to get an honor. You come up to the podium, you get a pras, you get a picture, and so on and so forth. And Bacharim were questioning me. How can you do that? I love it. I love the money too. But isn't that going against the grain of Chassidus? So somebody answered as follows. No question about it that after the Bachar got this prize, and I was standing in front of the podium and everybody was applauding, and it was gewaldig, and he got all the covet. It's no question about it that by Krishma Shalamita perhaps he should work on his bittul, on his anava. That's his personal avodah between him and Hashem. But the job of the yeshiva was one thing, to instill pride in this Bachar. The question is, where does his pride come from? From his pointy shoes, glossy shoes, or from the crease and his pants that you could get a cut from it? Or his pride is because I'm on my way to know Shas. My pride is that I'm going to know this year, every week one sicha of the Rebbe inside out with all the Marim Mekayms. That's my pride. That's who I am. Then comes Miftzayim Friday afternoon, all of a sudden Zag the Rebbe close the Gemara and go out, talk to a person who's not from yet, and start talking about Nadishkeit, Weltische Sachen that he's going to ask you, and you just have to shake along because you want to put him on film, the chulu. Put away your kav. Put away your line, Mesiras Nefesh. But boy, do we have a kav. We should have our kav is to know Shas, to know all the sichas, all the maimarim, people who have a kachim of tzayim. Many women have a kachim ta'aras ha-mishpacha going around in the world and teach it, or other miftzah kashas, miftzah mezuzah. People have a kach. Children see that kach, and that's where they pick it up and they live that. That's the home. That is the home. They say that there was a professor once who was moved in the beginning of a new semester to another town. They didn't have a home for him, so they put him up in a hotel. They gave him 2 suites with his children, and the children have no place where to play. They run around in the lobby downstairs, and they're on the nerves of all the people vacationing there, multimillionaires sitting there in the lobby with their coffee, sipping their coffee, and they are running around making noise. And finally, one of those people who couldn't take it anymore went over to his child, and he says, "My darling child, how does it feel to live in a strange town without a beautiful home?" But his child was a Yiddish cup. He says, "What? Living in a town without a beautiful home? We have the most beautiful home in the world. We just couldn't find a house yet where to put it into. The home is not the bricks. The home is a mother and father who have a life, who have a kach, who have a kav, who are looking forward to do things the way the Rebbe wants, the way Chassidus wants. That's their simcha, that's their joy in everything. That joy goes over to children, there's no question about it. That's by osmosis, that's what the house is. If I am a chelik elakamemal, if I am that, my children are that. And usually it goes that way. But if I only speak about it, if parents don't vaccinate, children don't. If they do, children do. It's a koch. It's a mahalach. That's who we are. It's interesting. Rabbi Chaim Vital asks a shaila, why is it that we see many Yehudim promises in the Gemara and in Psukim? If you do such and such, Laman Yarichin Yamecha. If you do such and such, you'll get this. And unfortunately, with our fleshige Augen, not necessarily do we see it in the sky and in this world. And Rabbi Chaim Vital says, you know why? It's an interesting statement. Not that I'm Bakir Rabbi Chaim Vital, but I heard it from my Mashpiyim. He says, because you did not do that mitzvah b'simcha. The Yehudim that Chazal promise is when you do it b'simcha. What's the connection? And then I found it, actually it's a Rambam Menuchas Tshuva. The Rambam Menuchas Tshuva says an interesting thing. We all know that schar in this world doesn't exist. Schar is an olam haba. However, we see all the psukim in Torah. V'hoyim shemoy hatishmol mitzvosai. Hashem promises you when satim etarartzichem you'll give the rain and so on and so forth. In b'chikesei talechu, all the psukim talk about this. And chas v'shalom the opposite. So the Rambam explains that that's not schar. That's smearing the wheels. That if you do avodas Hashem, Hashem will make it easier for you. That no obstacles come your way. That you have the ability to do Torah mitzvahs with ease. You have the ability to do Torah mitzvahs with no obstacles, nothing stopping you on the way. But the Rambam adds those words. I'll read the words. I wrote it down today. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, "V'iftichanu b'Torah, she'im nasa oisa b'simcha." The Torah had promised us that if we will do avodas Hashem b'simcha u'v'toivas nefesh, and with a satisfaction, this is who we are. V'nehage b'chachmasei tomet, and we'll be toiling in it constantly. That's when Hashem will give us all these things to take away anything that hinders. Stated that Hashem will do it. And chas v'shalom, if the opposite, and then he says nimtza. And he repeats, Im avadatem es Hashem b'simcha. Let me ask you, a person who works very hard at any company in the world, at B&H, at IBM, and happens to be a moody fellow, comes in every day and complains whenever he can, but he's an expert in what he does. Does he get a lesser paycheck than that person who comes in and is jolly and happy and simchadik? I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it happens that way. Business is business. Business before pleasure. Where does pleasure, where does simcha come into the picture? You're right. Paycheck is paycheck. In Olam Haba, says the Rambam. That's paycheck. But to give you extra bonuses, to be friendly, and to help you smear the wheels. It's like the Rambam, if that's who you are, well, make it happen. You want it should be Yitzave Esbanav Esbeise Achrev, it should be Gishmak, it should go along, says the Rambam. It shouldn't be no hindering in there. The key to that is Simcha. And Rachmana Litzlan the Teichecha, the Rambam brings that post. Tachas Ashalo Evadatem Es Hashem Elokecha B'Simcha V'tuv Levav. Because if that's missing, the fiber is broken up. So let's come to practicalities. We all know we're struggling with certain things. We all know the challenges which are out there today. Nobody is immune. It's a very difficult time. And nevertheless, there's a guarantee of Netzach Yisrael Le'Yeshaker, Klal Yisrael will continue forever. And there will be, yes, Hatzlacha and Yitzave Esbonav Esbeisei Achraf. But it has to be Yedaitif, through chibur, through something that we do in such a way that we have a shtub, was leicht, Torah in Yiddishkeit. So the question is, Rabbi, so perhaps you, and a few other mashpiyim, and a few Rosh Yeshivas perhaps, had a very special upbringing. You know, I'm about tshuva, I'm about tshuva. My parents never gave me that in my home. I tried to do the right things, I asked Rav, but I can't tell you that I'm not a Yankee. Yes, I am. I come from Texas. You know, I still have my tall boots in the closet. Cowboy hat, I don't wear too much. But you know, this is who I am. My children are 14, 15. What do you expect me to do? So how am I changing that? It's a very nice drasha in my own words. But how do I apply that? I wasn't given that. And yes, I enjoy rather a vacation than Simchas Torah rolling on the floor with other Chassidim saying L'chaim. I enjoy, my husband enjoys a ball game. It's not a question about stopping to do things. Though my husband enjoys music, I enjoy music. There's many things, as we mentioned before. We are an equation of the lowest common denominator with chelik alakama mal mamash. We have hobbies, we have certain things. And it's not necessarily that we have to drop them. But the question is, how we will have to find a way that those things we do because we have a nefesh abamis. But wer bin ich? Mi anoichi? Chelik alakama mal. in how are we going to do it, because I didn't see it by my parents. So I'd like to answer this question before we get even the questions and answers, because I know this always comes up as a question. It's a nice drasha, but practically, easy talking. I know many Baal Teshuvos. We had many of them in our Chabad house in Monsey. And I know all Baal Teshuvos, the moment they came, they were far from yet. First Shabbos they came. I wish any mitzvah I do should have a fraction of the enthusiasm they had for their first challah. They really got it, even though they didn't see it at home. But when they came to the Chabad house, when they came to Adarat Teira, when they came to Mechan Chana, whatever it was, they got that enthusiasm that was driving them to Mesiras Nefesh Mamash, to leave behind families, to leave behind jobs, Chilul Shabbos, and so on, changing their lives. And perhaps the indifference they got was maybe from us, not from them. They came with such a drive. And of course, enthusiasm sometimes fades. It doesn't continue the same way. It's natural. So what's the eitzah? But it's not that we can't do it. So I think the eitzah is a poshet eitzah. It's not difficult words. The Rambam says that there are many dargahs, 5 or 6 dargahs in giving tzedakah. The highest level of giving tzedakah, says the Rambam, v'achzak taboy. When a fellow comes to you for a loan, I'm opening a new business, I need $40,000 to get the key into that room. It says the Rambam, the greatest mitzvah of tzedakah is that loan. You're not even giving him anything. He'll pay it back. There's no shame. The giver doesn't know nobody's giving anybody any matana. There's no shame. And what you're doing is you're giving him a foundation, that from this foundation he will have panasa v'rever, they'll never have to borrow a penny from anybody. That is greater than any tzedakah you give. We have so many gatherings, and such mavakshei Hashem, people are willing, coming and listening and begging and paying money, doing everything in the world to do the right thing. But it happens once a year, twice a year, 5 times a year. We have a fabrengen here and there. And in the interim, life goes on as usual. The eitzah is v'hechzak toboy. Yes, it's not coming from zich allein. So let's make sure that there's a block shiur, that there's a fabrengen, a matzah Shabbos, women get together. The husband goes 3-4 times a week to a shiur, no matter how much Mesiras Nefesh it takes. But then, it's not we hear the drasha. These things become so natural. The Maggid Shir says a geschmakevar. You learn with the Chavrusa Maimer, a Sicha, a Gadete Gemara, a Shtikl Gemara. No, I'm in chinuch. Alumnus, you start having a new life. And you build that new geschmack, that we have a koch and a kav. Certain parents will come home, their thing will be nigla. They will have every week on the parsha something where you find the halacha. And we smurumas in the parsha, and they'll kochen them. Many people will like the Rebbe's Rasha Sichas. That will be everything. They'll ask the kids to prepare a good kasha and Rasha, and Shabbos will kochen that. But it comes with preparation, of course. It comes with the hechzakta boy. So we walk away from a drasha. No, it was very nice inspiration, but then what? The hechzakta boy, the inspiration should be one hachlot teva, that we're going to perpetuate this. That's not going to stay just a drasha, but we can continue l'mana sheyitzava as bonov as beisay achrav, because I'm going to get a new kochen things. I'm going to learn. So if you learn, of course, it changes minds, it changes hearts, and we become completely different. And then, yes, things go much easier. And now I'll have to take out my paper and look at my notes. So first of all, tonight is Nischus Leilu Nishmas for Rabbi Aaron D, as mentioned before. I bumped into a person today who told me that I lived out of town, and for many years of my yeshiva years, I boarded in that house with Isaac Mintz. And I saw, he said, first of all, everybody knew that his chavrusa with Rabbi Isaac Shrei was such treirei and the lo mispach, you were never able to break that. This was like an anchor. That's something you see in the children, the grandchildren. Lilu nishmaseh, let it be as chusvayz neshama. That limud atayre, with akvius. And then this younger man told me a story. He told me, it was Hanukkah. I was an American kid, I'll have to tell you that. And I got a lot of money on Hanukkah. All I did was I right away took a bus or a train. I went to Borough Park. He told me the name of the store. I forgot the name of the big electronics store. And it came out with a new box. And today they have all kinds of gadgets. But there was a box that you could look at it. That was boxing, fighting, boxing. That was images. So I spent a lot of money. And I bought this box. And since I was boarding by Rabbi Isaac Mintz, all of us shalom, so I brought her home. And he walks into the room and he sees me in this scale. He says, let's call him Shmedel. He says, Shmedel, what's it does? He says, well, I bought it. It's my money. He says, I understand. Where do you have the money? Oh, it's Hanukkah. Oh, I understand. So what did you buy? He says, this box. It's a game. He says, I saw him lost. His looks. He said, what? You get money? You bought a boxing box? No svarim? No svarim? He says, then he gave me a pat on my back and he didn't say a word weiter. The next day, I was in that store, returned it. Until today, I have a Yalkid Me'amleis. That was the exchange for that box. Because of Rabbi Isaac Mintz's question and the way he asked it was. Didn't give me a psak, it didn't give me a musar, but I saw his life, his chayas. A kid gets money, what do I do? Was tut er mit Geld? Kauft Svarim. Das Beiter Stub. And he wasn't a child in that home. He was boarding in that home. So, as we said before, if a father is human, the child is human. If a father is a chelik elakam emal, not only his children, his boarding children, adoptees, become what he is as well. Because we could do it. We could do it in that way by putting it in such a way. The Mishnah says, Hakeinis tzayin ledir, Nishna Bavakama. If somebody is a shepherd who brings all his sheep into the stable and he locks the doors, he locked all the doors, and one of the wild goats broke out. He went and he damaged somebody else's property. The man is exempt, he is potter. He did the best he could. He protected it. He made a fence. Says the Mishnah Vayter. But if it's a hot burning day and the sun is boiling from top, burning, and you didn't provide a cover to protect the goats from that heat. Says the Mishnah, and a goat broke out and went and damaged, you're responsible. Because you knew very well that he wouldn't be able to tolerate that heat. And he will break out. Obviously, we all know what Tzayin is. What do we have better than Tzayin Kedoshim? Unsere Teire Kinderlich. We were standing all together here a few years ago by another gathering of Rabbi Ephraim Mintz, the Mintz family, for Rabbi Isaac Olav Shalom. And then we were talking of part one. Mekadesh Amor Yisrael al de Chuppah v'Kiddushin. First comes Kiddushin. Kiddushin, for 12 months, the Kala couldn't see the Chassan. Couldn't live with the Chassan without the Chuppah first. All Kiddushin was, everything else is out. The Aser Le'a Kuli Alma. All modernity is out. Welt is out. This is God, no modern, it's orthodox. Then comes the beauty of Chassidus. So we were talking for 2 hours then about the foundation. Tonight is part 2. It's the chuppah, the beauty that has to go into a home. Tells us the Mishnah. You made the proper, you say this. There's no internet in your home, and if it's absolutely necessary, it's filtered, and the children could never go alone on there without your supervision. It's all done in the right way. They have mishnayos extra at night, and they have special tutors, and they're learning and davening. It's unbelievable home. But says the Mishnah, if you allow something to, the geschmack of the home is not there, it's burning something, you know the child will run out and look because someplace else is better. Our homes have to be geschmacker, ziser, chelik elokah has to be ziser, that all the competition out there. That's a very tall order. And that's what we're facing with. We cannot deny it. Challenges are unbelievable. We need to make the foundation. If it's not noel b'fnei, if you didn't make a fence in the first place, you're chayav no matter what. You can't say, we'll teach Chassidus, and we have just a beautiful home, but we allow the kids to go and to do. If you didn't make a fence, you're responsible in the first place. But if you thought you did, I did everything. I eat only chalav Yisrael. We have a kosher home. We do. We go lahalacha. Aber as an the Reichkeit, if a kid wants to look someplace else, as the famous story, I think the Frierdiker Rebbe writes it on himself, but I heard somebody told me that the Rebbe said it happened with his malamet, with him. So look up the story, whichever way it's true, that he was looking out the window once. The way I remember it, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes it, he was like 12 years old or something, and he got a little petchel from the Rebbe Rashab. And he told him, I'd rather you be outside and look inside than being inside and having a desire to be out there. A home has to be such a home, not only Noel, big tall windows and curtains, that you can't, you don't, no. That's all in the foundation. When they're 3, when they're 2, you do that. And even when they're 5, and even later, there are certain things we need to do that. But that's not sufficient. On top of that, on top of the foundation comes a beautiful home. A home has chont, has a geschmack, a beautiful bed, has warmth, has chayas, has chassidus, has iskashus, has life. And if we don't provide that half, then we know the kid eventually, says the Mishnah, the tzon will have to find something intriguing, something where I have a life, something where I have a koch, where I have something. B'meila, so the Eitzah is to make a keli. That the hachlata, those who have it, avad and avad reich, those who, to double it. If good is better and is better. If we don't have it, let's make it. That not only we're doing the right thing, not only going to follow what the therapist told me, I'm going to follow what the manal asked me. I'll come to school and tell my teacher, my mommy told me I need to ask forgiveness. My mommy told me that I need to apologize. You know what such an apology is worth. It's not that I'm told to do anything. Our children should see that this is what we want to do. This is what we live. And when we do it that way, children absolutely follow that, and they too will go in such ways. Finishing off about Kviyas and Teda, the Gemara says, Mishnah, the Meir says, every person has to be malamet as b'nai Teda. Umnis. Every father has to provide his children with a means for life. So he has to teach them a trade and so on and so forth. To teach them swimming and other things. Then in the Braisa comes the Gemara Ibn Hira Omer. And Ibn Hira says, Ani eini malamet is b'ni ala Teda. I don't teach my children only Teda, nothing else. A lot of Mefarshim ask the kasha. There's a famous Gemara. The Gemara says Reb Meir's name was not Reb Meir. Reb Meir's name was Reb Hira. Why was he called Reb Meir? So Reb Meir eini chachamim b'halacha, because he shined up all the Talmidim with halacha and Torah. That's why his name is Reb Meir. But his personal name is Reb Neira. It's the very same person. In the Mishnah he says, teach them a trade. And then he comes and says, no. I, for one, don't teach my children only Torah. So there are many who want to explain simple, that when he teaches the public, regular people, a lot of people try it like Reb Shimon ben Yochai. It's not the regular way for everybody. People are balabatim. That's what most of Klal Yisrael is. You have to have a trade. For myself, this is what I do. But I think perhaps it's much more than that. I think it's much more than that. I think the pshat is like this. There's a home where the father goes every night, 8:30 to 9:30, goes to a shiur. And kinderlich know that whatever bickering they have, whatever they're going to want, 8:30 to 9:30 is off limits. Because Tati goes to a shiur. Like Rabbi Isaac Shvei knows, has a chavrusa. Or Rabbi Isaac Mintz. There's no such a thing. This is his life. This is who he is. We all know that people work 12, 14 hours a day. It's so difficult to make a living, and we do so many things. But even though 90% of the day or 95% of the day is at work, everybody knows I live for those 15, 20 minutes that I put my kids to sleep and give a kushin kepela and say, Mama and Tatala, I love you. Tell them a story. That's what I work for the whole day. Otherwise, what I need the money for. Even though it's only a short period of the day, it's 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour the most. All the 14 hours is for these 5, 10 minutes, for this half hour. It's not about timing. It doesn't work that way. This is what I live for. In every home, the children would know that my tati or my mommy, now she's davening, these few minutes I can, this is her life. Or she learns a sikh on the phone, she goes on the phone line. From 11 to 12, this is her thing. And Reb Neira says, I'm talking to Balbatim like Reb Meir. You're going to have a job. You're going to have an umnus. You're going to be any type of business. You'll be a realtor, you'll be a plumber, an electrician, you'll be everything in the world. That's what's going to bring you parnasa. But ani eini malamed des b'ni ele Torah. What do I teach my children? Wer bin ich? Ani. This is Torah. It could be by Pashatu Balabatam, not by Rosh Yeshivas. That the children see the chshivas of Torah in such a way, as mentioned the story of this Muncie rabbi before, of this Mr. Goldfarb. And they say, you know what? I want to be that Talmud Chacham. I want to know Shas. Because Reb Neira says, Ani. When I give over my Ani to my children, it's only Torah. Yes, Parnasa, Umnas, we do many things for Parnasa. But that's not who we are. So the Rebbe helps. That started in the beginning. We're Temchet Tmimim, with the Rebbe's children. We're here gathered to give the Rebbe Nachas, that we have this resolve of making sure that no matter what we do, there's one thing. But what we are, we're all united in one thing only. Ani, eine Malamed des B'nai only Chassidus, Torah, Yiddishkeit, is Kashis to the Rebbe, and all Chassidische Hanogas, und Lichtigkeit for Chassidus and for Yiddishkeit. And with them, as the Rebbe quoted so many times, they are the Arevim Ba'adeinu. They are our guarantors. They're going to take it to the very next generation, and Mashiach will greet them first before everybody else. Let it be now with the Rebbe together. Amen.
Shikayach, thank you very much, of Ganz. I'm sure that many of us tonight are going to go home and show our children who we are. Wer bin ich? I think that's the focus of tonight's talk, and it's really a very special one. That's what it's all about. There are cards on the table, on the chairs. If anybody would like to ask any question, please write it and we'll pass it up. I'm a single divorced mother. My 10-year-old daughter got into a fight with her younger brother before Shabbos. She was so upset, she said, I'm not lighting Shabbos candles. What can I do to change things at home so she won't say this. What do I do? What do I even say? How do I react when it was already Lichtbenchen and I felt desperate when she really was refusing to come? She ended up coming to light soon after, because I said I won't buy her what she's asking me to.
Interesting question. It has a lot of ramifications, not just in this particular question, but in all of chinuch of our children. Are they ready to threaten? Are we scared of them? And how do I handle when they're not there? As we spoke today, their ani is in a different ani than our ani, than our ich. So, as I mentioned before, I didn't come here as a professional and giving eitzes and hadrachas how to handle a particular challenge and how to do this. And there are many ways how to handle it. Sometimes you could do it like we said before, a foundation, that whether you like it or you don't like it, Shabbos candles are Shabbos candles. What does a bickering with a sister have to do with punishing Hashem for doing it, for not doing it, and so on? So there are many ways, which is another talk of its own, how we make things which are, as a matter of fact, that it's not connected, It's not a choice. It's not a question, do I want to light, I don't want to light. It's a reality. But to give, perhaps, what I'd like to say is as follows. Sometimes we go to a drasha, to a speech, to a fabrengen. We come home, children want to know, what did you hear? So we usually glean a few stories, which are geschmackes stories, and that's easy to give over. And it's a very good thing. Stories are what makes the fiber of a home. Chassidus Sipurim, it's gewaldig. But sometimes, as we mentioned before, I heard it, it's beautiful. How do I implement it and what do I do? So I'd like to say that Lamoshel, whatever we discussed the whole night, could be sat down with children and divided into 5 Friday nights and give over such a concept to children as well. It's not just for parents. That mir leben von Rebbeinu Shalom. That we just don't do this. We teach our children the same way. So it's not, I'm not in the mood, I am in the mood. This is who we are. This is what we live for. A father never comes and says, today I'm not going to the job, I'm upset. He knows he has to provide for a family. It's not a question, I'm in the mood, I'm not in the mood. So this Verbringing could be continued and extrapolated and brought home as well, and use those things and do the same and add 10 times more that I said, stories of Rabbeim, of Chassidim, how their life was Chassidus. I'll just tell you something very interesting. I was in Muncie in Shabbos Tshuva. It's a person who made a bar mitzvah. He has a Chassidish family, and he has family which are more Litvish, more Misnagdish. There were everybody there. And it was a Chassidish Fabrengen, it was Chayas dancing, and they were a bit lost. It's Shabbos Tshuva, and people are dancing and singing, and it's after Elul, Shon Kippur is coming. So a person stood up there and spoke. And he said a famous story that a lot of you heard already before. I think it's an old story. When the Rebbe spoke about the Elul time, it's not a time to rebuke Yidden, it's a time to uplift Yidden. It's Chas v'Shalom, not a time for a kitruk on Yidden. So they tell a story, there was a gathering, Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah, the night before, of thousands of Yidden. And one of the great speakers, a world-famous orator, dramatic speaker, was describing how the IRS is coming tomorrow to get you. And they say tomorrow morning you should have all your books, your accountant and your lawyer with you, and make sure you have each and every book. And so you can imagine you're not going to sleep that night, and especially if you know you cooked your books and you cheated on taxes here, a little bit, loopholes here and loopholes there. There's no question you're not going to sleep that night. So this speaker started really, really pounding on the table. My dear friends, tomorrow morning, the Rebbeinu Shalom himself is coming. The Dayan Emes is not Makabel Sheikhet. He doesn't take any bribery. He knows every pamphlet. He knows your books. You can't cook the books. And people were trembling. People were crying. It was frightening. Another Chassidish Rav was sitting there who heard the Sikha of the Rebbe a week before, and he knew he has to do something. Now Dafka, the greatest speaker in the world, what does he do now? What can he add? How can he change the mood? So he walked over to the mic and repeated those words. Tomorrow morning, Koila Shefer, the Dayan of Emes, doesn't take any bribery. He knows your inside out, knows your kishkas. And says, and he finished off one word, but I want to let you know one thing. That judge sitting at the bench, that judge is your father. Avinu Malkeinu is our father. So the person is sitting at this bar mitzvah, and he's asking a shayla. So does that mean that by we Chassidim, Elul, the fish and water don't tremble? If you look at the Likutei Diburim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, how he describes the Elul Vintel, what do you think? They were partying in Elul, ordering more pizza pies? But after all, the judge is my father. What do you think? So somebody explained it in a very beautiful way. And bear with me for 3 more minutes. He said as follows. Imagine, he says, walking into that home of the person who cooked the books and is awaiting trial tomorrow morning. And he's trembling. I'm sure he's saying some kapitlich Tillim. He called a few lawyers, experts. He's paying thousands of dollars trying to find defenses for each and everything that he did, looking through every little thing. But in between, listen very carefully how he's talking to his wife. That judge, let him not wake up next morning. And if he's a nice guy, he'll wish him to retire tomorrow morning. Let all the books be burned. Let the chamber of the judge be burned down. Does he really think of tshuva for 1 second? If he has a chance to get out of the whole thing with another good bribe, would he not do the same that he did till now? Is there any connection between him and the judge? Does he really want to do tshuva? It's absolutely robotic. And go into the judge's chamber tomorrow. When he'll admonish him, how dare you embezzled $50 million from the American people? Do you know how many homes this could have paid Medicaid for? Do you know what you did to the American people? On Nechtigen Tag, this judge cares about that. If nobody would embezzle anything, he wouldn't have a job. Yeah, he doesn't want people to stab each other, I know. He doesn't want Chas v'Shalom should be chaos in the streets. Because he really so pained about what he did. But imagine a kid who ran away from home when he's 15 years of age. And he thought he's going to make a life. You would know the agony and the pain that he caused for his parents. He's now 25, he didn't find anything. It was just, he found misery and illness and so on, and boredom and so on, and he's about to turn back home. And he's walking home, trying to tap on the door and say, Tati, Mommy, I'm back. Can you imagine the feeling of such a child? Yes, he's going to cry. He's going to beg. Yom Kippur is not Simchas Torah. There's crying. There's begging forgiveness. But do you know what life there is there? I know a father who would pay $1 million, $1 billion. Yes, he's upset with me. There's Rugza Sharechet because I'm not going the right path. He's very upset. But boy, am I touched by that pain. I don't hate that judge. That Avinu Malkeinu I love to pieces. I would pay $1 million. They should accept me back. That's Chassidish tshuva. Of course, Elul is Elul. But it's with joy, it's with simcha, it's with lichtigkeit, because we have a relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's something that Atata was vart. Ati Poishad Yat. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives a hand. L'Shoyim, he wants us to come back. So it's not just, we laugh it off, our judge, he's my father. No, so he's going to forgive me anyway, so let me sin twice. No, if he's my father, he has unconditional love to me. Do you know what it demands from me, unconditional love to my father? You know what it demands from me, what a type of tshuva that is? Chassidus gives us such a varmkeit, such a lichtigkeit, the truth of everything. Not incentives, not robotic things. And we teach this to our children. We're just not lighting Shabbos candles to do because I'm now upset. These are tit for tat things, robotic things which I do with my boss, that I'm from 9 to 5. You didn't give me the paycheck in time, tomorrow I'm coming late. Something that I live, when I'm upset, therefore, I'm not going to breathe now for 12 minutes because I'm upset now. Oh no, it's my life. I don't stop breathing. We teach that way our children. So that's the foundation. So these things shouldn't happen. If they happened, we sit down, make a verbrengen with them. And they said, Namala, first you light candles. It's Shabbos. It's Erev Shabbos. This is what we do. No questions. You want an explanation? Tonight after the fish, we'll have a verbrengen about this. And you talk about these words.
This parent asks, what do you think if a child has been bullied and is very sensitive or any other problems? Do you suggest using the option of a therapist, of a counselor, to talk with once a week, or somebody from I'm not sure if I can read what it says, has a Lubavitcher with a college degree? Should I go to him?
Tonight's title was originally How to Instill in Our Children Yiras Shomayim with Self-Esteem. It was changed. Instead of self-esteem, was put in the words with Simchas Hachaim. Self-esteem is a very good thing, and sometimes, I think I have a very healthy self-esteem. I don't know if it's part of my milas or part of my chesronos. Maybe I should share half of it with others. It's too healthy, maybe. Brings me arrogance sometimes. But Rebbe has a sikha of self-esteem, what it means, Evet Melech Melech, that if you're connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and it's not your pride, it's your pride in Yiddishkeit, then the sky is the limit, or not even, because it's the Rebbeinu Shalom. The reason I changed that is, first of all, not every class and every lecture today has to do with psychology. It's important. People suffer from things, and I'm not belittling it. It's a lot of people need it. There's actually a sikha from the Rebbe, Tafshin Nun Aleph. It's printed. You can look at it and say for the sikhas. It's Chag HaShavuos. And the Rebbe talks to the Rabbanim who come on Shavuos, that you're all gathered together face to face. It's a time the Rabbanim could convene, talk about every generation has new challenges, new gadgets, new things which halacha has to decide how you handle this halachically. And the Rebbe adds, every generation is different. Today we have mental questions, mental illnesses, and the Rabbanim should decide what is appropriate, which methods are appropriate, how to handle these mental situations and difficulties. So a Rav should actually be consulted in such a situation when you need that. But what I wanted to say is, Simchas Hachaim is not just self-esteem. Self-esteem could mean I'm a happy person and I'm satisfied and I could do anything I wish. Simchas Hachaim means what we said, what is the ani? My satisfaction is from Kihem Chayenu V'Eirich Yemenu. That's my satisfaction. So that was the topic of the night, self-esteem, and other things are mighty important, which we'll leave for another time.
This parent writes that there's a 14-and-a-half-year-old bocher. He's a great learner. He chaps all the learning. He learns every Shabbos at Mincha, but his koch is in playing chess. And all his free time he plays chess. Should I try to rechannel his energies elsewhere, or it's okay to play chess?
As we mentioned before, we have two parts to our equation. And if a person has a hobby, if a person has something, you can't just take it away and break it. Somebody told me that a Rav went into the Amshin of a Rebbe and he asked him that he has a balabas on his shul that he's trying to dissuade him of not having a television in his home, going back 50 years ago. And he says, no matter what I do, I talk and talk, I'm blue in the face, and he wouldn't budge. So the Amshin of a Rebbe told him do you know to this person, the television is his life. He works hard the whole day, and he comes in down at night and he klutzes in this machine, and this gives him his whole Shiur By The Renowned. This became him. He says, you just can't take it away. You're going to need to replace it with something. He says, make sure he comes 3 times a week to a shiur of yours. Give him something yishmach and Chassidus. Give him something else. Of course, if it's your child and he's 3 years old, then it's out. There's no question about it. It's a foundation. You don't discuss it. But if a person is a stranger already and he has it already acquired, you just can't rob him from it. You have to slowly channel it, as the question was, and that's the right word, in a different way. So you can't tell him don't play. We're human beings. We do. The Rebbe never had a day of chafesh in his life. All the Rabbeim even had, whatever it meant, hoyach and yonim. But we're human beings. We go on a vacation. We do certain things to refresh, because our life is Torah mitzvahs. We need keiches for that as well. So a kid plays piano, a kid plays keyboard or something else, or plays chess. It's fine, as long as that doesn't become his ani. You channel it, and you give him something else that he has a gekach and a geschmack and other yonim as well, or more.
What do I do when my 6-year-old child tells me, I hate you?
I come from a different generation. I don't know the answer to this. I can't understand how a child of 6 could say that. Never happened to my generation. I don't know the answer. I'm sure there are answers, but not for now.
Okay. My child doesn't like to make a bracha before eating. So should I just remind him and then he can do as he pleases? Or should I make a bracha loudly myself so he will emulate me? Or should I force him? What should I do?
There was an article written in Perspective, which was written by me, about guidelines of children, according to the Alter Rebbe Shechnorech, of which age they have to be mechunach, they have to follow halachas, and they're too young, you can't force them to bench the whole benching and so on and so forth. But whenever they reach that age, it should become normal and common that that's what they do. I'd like to ask whoever asked this question, what would be if my child, I need to go to work today, and I have a flight to make. My child says, Mommy, you can't go, because I'm not in the mood to go to a babysitter now, whatever. We find answers without asking a rabbi what to do. Things which are negeya to us, be'emes, we will find a way. Bracha, making a bracha, if the child, it depends on the age, but if the child, it comes to that age, it becomes so simple and mandatory that it's not a discussion, it's not a choice. So, do we ask the child if she wants a bath tonight as well? And do we ask the child, are you in the mood I should take the knits out tonight of your hair? Oh, she's not in the mood tonight, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it. Since when do we do that? If it's important, it's important. And if we show that it's a question, and maybe yes, we'll see tomorrow, then we taught the child, oh, this is not from the important things. Okay, so we gave them a choice, we told them clearly, this is not from the important things. So of course, there are children who are very tough. Every rule in chinuch has an exception, everything. There'll be a child who will have a tantrum and kick and scream, I'm not making a bracha. So it's a question about how did I educate him from 3 years ago. But no, don't take him now and schmeiss him, no, you're going to have to do it. Sometimes the eitzah is, if it's, walk out. And, many different ways how to react depending on the child, his background. Is he pained by other things? There's a lot of things. But the general answer is, children don't have choices in certain things. The same way they have no choices whether they eat breakfast or not. Yiddishkeit to us, this is our shtub.
And the last question for tonight, you're welcome to come over to Rabbi Ganz afterwards privately. The last question is, I have an 8th grader who is very sluggish and overwhelmed. He has no Simchas Hachaim. What's a practical idea that I can do tonight, tomorrow, to change this?
Don't know the child, don't know the situation, don't know how the home looks, but in general, verbringen with the kid, and maybe perhaps at every supper, every night supper, read him a story, a Chassidus story, take Sefer HaZichrenis from the Frierdiker Rebbe, start reading, and sometimes this child needs private time, but this is all more of personal things, and that you could ask personal mashpim. Sometimes he needs private, take him out for a spazier, and do other things that would boost him up. But really the main thing is you need to find out if something is bothering him, and he's really depressed about something, then you have to try to mitigate the circumstances that are behind that. Otherwise, give him Simchas Hachaim, like what we spoke a whole night. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure really to see our desires for Torah mitzvahs. Thank you.